which leads me into the lead story of the day regarding disaster. You have the Biden administration announcing executive actions on the climate crisis. And I will go ahead and put the climate crisis in air quotes for those that are listening, because it's truly baffling that what's taking place at the US-Mexico border is still just considered a challenge to the Biden administration when you have over 200,000 illegal immigrants pouring across the border each and every month. That's about 6,000 to 8,000 per day. You have caravans coming from South America of like 15 to 20,000 people. They're taking up hotel rooms, which we're paying on taxpayer dollars. Now we're also giving them abortions, according to ICE, that you're going to pay for taxpayer dollars. Joe Biden's flying them under the dark of the night, which you're paying for with your taxpayer dollars. So all this stuff's just money out the window. And now he wants to spend billions of dollars more on this climate crisis. It's just unbelievable. The language the Democrats are willing to call a crisis, and at the other end, something else is just a challenge. So President Biden announced Wednesday that he will be implementing a number of executive actions focusing on combating climate change. Now, I find this also interesting because I'm reading Glenn Beck's book called The Great Reset. And one of the mechanisms to implement the Great Reset is climate change and making it a crisis rather than a challenge. The book is freaking blowing my mind. If you haven't read it, go pick it up at Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, anywhere. It's going to change you a little bit. Well, Biden's executive actions come after Senator Joe Manchin reportedly said that he will not support a package before the midterm elections, which includes any provisions on energy and climate, with his spokesperson telling Fox News Digital that Manchin wants to avoid taking steps that add fuel to the inflation fire. See, it's amazing that there's basically one or two Democrats, you have Manchin and Kristen Sinema, that somewhat have their mind still towards the middle, the moderate Democrat Party, because everybody else has just gone further left. And you have Bernie Sanders the other day coming out and saying Joe Manchin is speaking a bunch of nonsense and that he's freaking sabotaging the president's agenda. So because Joe Biden is not getting his way, he's going to use executive actions very similar to what Trump did with the US-Mexico border here with climate. I don't agree with it. I don't like it. Look, I'm not a big fan of presidents using executive orders or executive actions. I do think it's overdone. It's overused. And I think it's honestly, in some way, shape, or form, a little bit of an overstretch of power from the executive branch. Included in the executive actions is an effort to protect communities from the extreme heat and dangerous climate impacts, which includes $2.3 billion in funding for the Federal Emergency Management Agency's Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities program. Jeez Louise, what a title, huh? I was like, when is this going to end? Which is intended to help communities increase resilience to heat waves, droughts, wildfires, flood, hurricanes, and other hazards by preparing before disaster strikes, according to the White House. But at the same time, when disaster does strike with any of these, you're not going to have any gas because Joe Biden's sending like 5 million barrels of petroleum reserve to China, which his son has investments in. But we're not going to open up a grand jury with that. We're not going to investigate any of that, which is so frustrating. And I've seen your guys' comments. Again, leave me a comment down below because I do love engaging and reading all your comments. Is that how is it that there's no investigations on Joe Biden or Hunter Biden? Like, what the hell? Like, Donald Trump makes a phone call with Zelensky and it's just like everybody loses their minds. But Joe Biden here is caught on tape with certain aspects. He's sending oil and barrels of oil, millions, to China where his son has investments in, but nobody's going to bat an eye over that in the Democrat Party. It is so unbelievable, the corruption of it. The executive actions by Biden also include an effort to lower cooling costs for communities who are suffering from extreme heat, as the White House is issuing guidance that will assist states, tribes, and territories in their funding for community cooling centers, as well as helping people with their communities get access to cooling equipment. So my thing is that why are we continually pumping out more and more money? We are over $20 trillion in debt, and we're just throwing cash out like it's hotcakes. Where are the Republicans at on this? Thank God you have Manchin at least somewhere with his head out of his ass. You know, he's the only one in the Democrat Party that seems to actually acknowledge that when you keep pumping the economy full of money, it's going to cause increased inflation. But clearly Biden hasn't woken up to the massive issue that's going on here. The Federal Reserve can't handle it by increasing interest rates. They're only doing like a quarter, anywhere from a quarter to 0.75% with inflation continually increasing. So as they're increasing interest rates, you have inflation still increasing at the same time. So clearly you're not increasing it enough. And all at the same time, Biden wants to pump out more money into the economy. As I've said in other shows this week, you also have Gavin Newsom. Wrap this one around your head. Gavin Newsom wants to give out more stimulus checks to help fix the inflation problem. That is literally the definition of inflation, by giving out more money, inflating the economy with that money. They don't get it. It's going to continue to get worse. And we're stuck with this, folks, for at least another year and a half. Okay. At least another year and a half. Additionally, the Biden administration will consider potential wind power projects. I'm sorry. It's so baffling to me, this whole wind and solar thing they're trying to push. And again, this comes from Glenn Beck's book. I mean, again, I highly, highly recommend it. I've almost read the whole book in one night. Fabulous, fabulous. Just talking about the climate crisis, their push on wind and solar, and how much damage that's going to do to our natural habitats, our ecosystem, because you're going to have to freaking just barrel through just massive amount of land to be able to put these wind turbines in place, these solar panels that are going to have to use natural resources, but they don't want mining, folks. They don't want mining. They don't understand how you have to build the actual damn thing and put it in place to be able to use it. But you're not going to be able to do that. And these same people that are pushing the climate crisis are the same people of like PETA, right? They don't want animals to be hurt, but they want millions of birds to be completely wiped out by these wind turbines. Furthermore, you also have them want these solar panels that just aren't going to do it. And the cleanest thing of everything, the cleanest thing you could possibly do in terms of, being sufficient energy is putting in nuclear power, but they don't want to do it. They're so scared about this, pushing all this alarmist stuff. If they really cared about the environment, they would put in energy in terms of nuclear power all across the United States to give us that power that we need. But no, they keep pushing this wind turbine crap that has to basically be replaced every 20 or 30 years or something like that, where nuclear power will exceed that and has literally shown in data to exceed those limits in terms of having to be replaced and upgraded and things like that. So in the long run, it would actually cost more money for wind and solar than it would for nuclear power. But they don't want to talk about that. It's just, they don't care. It's all money grab for these people. Biden is also directing the Secretary of Interior to advance clean energy development off the coast of Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina to ensure that these Southeast states will be able to benefit from good paying jobs in the burgeoning offshore wind industry. Just, you try to want to make sense in terms of what the Biden administration's plan is on things. I'm just at this point now where I just call him BS on everything. Like, somebody's benefiting from this. You know what I mean? If it doesn't, there's a saying that we used in accounting when we did auditing. And the saying is, if it smells like shit, usually it is shit. And when you have billions of dollars like this, upwards of $2+ billion being pumped out in the economy for climate crisis, somebody's being pocketed in their book with all this money. And so I'm calling a lot of just smoke. And there's definitely gonna be fire where this is at. It's going in a lot of people's pocketbooks. It's not really gonna make a change here. Look, they've been doing this for decades now without much change. We're still under this whole climate crisis. They're pushing that we're in an ice age back in like the 70s, that things are gonna get cooler. Now they're saying that there's, global warming and the climate change aspect is taking in and all this hubbub and stuff like that. Do I agree that there is some warming and climate is changing? Yes. But their goal and what they want to do in making clean energy isn't the answer. You need to go nuclear. You need to put those plants all across the United States so that we can meet the energy crisis. And that's important. I hope you enjoyed that clip from the Bald Brad Show. If you did, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date on all our future content.